On this league, we have a special guest, Katie Austin, host and fitness personality, beautiful, radiating smile, former D1 athlete. She spent time covering the NBA for Fox Sports West and the NBA during Summer League. Thank you so much for joining us, Katie. Is that good?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
So I actually got my start covering the NBA Summer League too.
Did you really? What year?
Yeah. Dame's first year. So
Okay.
2012?
I was like 2018 through 2019. Actually,
So
2017 maybe. Yeah, 2017.
It's an incredible place to get your start covering the league because it's so much more accessible than you could ever imagine the NBA being, and probably never will be again outside of that particular event.
100%. And they give you so much creativity, but it is such a grind. I mean, you are waking up at 6 a.m. You are trying to get the stories out, and then you have like an intern camera guy. There's probably like 10 hosts when we did it and 3 camera guys. And so all the hosts kind of like fight over what camera guy that people are going to use that day. It is such a hustle. So to be thrown into something like that right after college was like such a great experience.
And Warren's a great guy too. Warren and
Albert Hall.
Albert Hall, yeah. They both have done an incredible job of making that into a spectacle. But you're
Absolutely.
Right. There are games going on from day until night, back to back to back, and you're going back before. And people don't know that it's 2 arenas. And you're having to go back and forth between
all the real NBA players, not just the ones, who are the rookies and, right out of college, but all NBA players come and watch the young guys. And so you have your pick on so many different athletes to interview. And that was like the coolest part because I did so many different pieces on real NBA guys too.
Who was your favorite person to interview while you were there?
Oh man, that's a really hard question. Okay. So I did this piece where I like danced with the guys. It was like 3 years ago where this dance move was like really trending in the floss. So I'd ask every guy what their favorite dance move was, and I'd make them do it with me. And they were so awkward. And I had to be like so energetic and kind of crazy, be like, just do it with me. And there's like no music. And I think everyone hated me, but like it worked and it made for a great piece.
Oh, that's amazing. I think that people know you from your mom and fitness through your mom, but they don't know that your dad is a super agent.
No one has any idea. I actually mentioned it for the first time on my Instagram, like I think as a month ago or 2 months ago, which is crazy because I get so much shit online because I am a bandwagon fan for so many different teams. I wear so many different jerseys and I get hate messages. Like literally these guys will come to me and be like, you were just cheering for the Warriors. Why are you a Lakers fan now? Why are you cheering for the Dallas Mavericks now? And I'm like, you don't understand. My dad has like 17 players and I cheer wherever team they are. And so I'm definitely America's biggest bandwagon fan. And that's what made me love the NBA so much because I grew up watching it with my dad, obviously for work and going to games, so many games with him growing up, which has been awesome.
Was it weird being a little kid and your dad working the room when you're doing, you're going to a game that you enjoy and you get to see him kind of like schmooze, but also it very much being work?
Yes, my dad's definitely not a schmoozer. He's the most humble, quiet, shy man ever and just so smart. But it's so funny because, the guys at school, I just remember like even in elementary school and middle school, guys would think I'm like the coolest girl because my dad, and then girls would think I'm cool because my mom, and then I definitely got bullied because of my mom. We'll get into that. We can get into that later. But yeah, it was really awesome because I got to meet all these amazing players. And I just like remember growing up with Chris Paul. And so even now seeing him and his family, it's just like, I was so it was just instilled in me for growing up with NBA players. And I think that's like one of the coolest parts that, and a great gift that I was given because interviewing NBA players came kind of easy to me because I wasn't really starstruck by them, if that makes sense, because they would come over to my house for dinner. And so, you see an NBA player and you just talk to them and you're comfortable like you are with any normal human.
What do you think outside of not being starstruck, do you think that your mindset interviewing an athlete is different, knowing that there's a whole brand behind them and an agent and publicist and the whole business side? Do you think that affects how you actually ask questions and what you ask?
Most definitely. You have to like, well, especially at Summer League, that's a great example to go back to that. Every question's approved. And so you have to not only go through their agency, but you have to go through the team's publicist. So it's very hard. And I think I definitely have a little bit of an advantage just because I feel like I would be able to ask some of my dad's players a little bit more intimate questions than a normal person, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, they're more comfortable and they know what your intentions
Yeah.
are. How come you decided to go the fitness slash hosting route instead of going into the business side like your dad?
It's funny because I was actually at where was it, NBA All-Star last February, and I literally got approached by an agency being like, if you ever want to work for us and be an agent like your dad, we know you know the business side, please give me, here's my card. And that was like the first time I thought about it. But as far as fitness and hosting, I actually studied broadcast journalism at USC, and so I knew from a very young age I wanted to be in broadcast. I just didn't know exactly what. And so I hosted a sports show at USC for 2.5 years. And then after about a year and a half of sports hosting, I kind of got a little bit like, okay, wait, I was an athlete my entire life. My mom was in fitness. I love fitness so much. I love to work out. Let's make a weekly segment about fitness hosting. And so I kind of combined my love for like the broadcast side and the working out side. And now that's why I call myself a fitness personality. But also a huge reason is because I saw my mom growing up, people come up to her all the time being like, you saved my life. You helped me lose all
Mm,
this weight. You gave me that confidence to like walk into a room. You gave me the confidence to break up with my husband. Literally,
wow.
someone said that to her. And I was like, holy shit, the fitness industry is so rewarding. And so I've been really struggling the past few years between like sports hosting, if I want to take that route like very strongly, and then the fitness route, because I've been really doubling with them for the past, I would say 3 years out of college. And so when you double two careers, you can't put your full heart into either of them. You're kind of giving half-ass to both of them because if you want to be a good sports host, you have to give it your 100%. And same with being a fitness, influencer or personality. And so I'm still kind of in that in between right now. But I definitely think the fitness industry has been more rewarding.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you're doing sports hosting or even agency work. No one's going to come up and say, "Hey, you changed my life to give me the strength and courage to leave my
Right.
husband." That's
Exactly.
wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. Why do you think your dad, you mentioned he is not a schmoozer. He's like a very humble, kind of no BS guy. What do you think makes him as successful as he is? I think he's top 10 agent in the NBA for a very long time now, at least.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Well, he has a lot of integrity, and he started by representing his best friend, who was Jimmy Connors at the time, #1 in the world for tennis, and his sister, who was #1 in tennis for women's. And so when he started being an agent in his early 30s, he represented two #1 people in the world for tennis for a sport, both women's and men's. And both of them were, his best friends. And I mean, his sister and very two close people. And so I think, obviously it stems from his heart being so successful. I think being kind to people goes a very, very long way in the industry. And to be honest, a lot of these agents that are schmoozers, they can win it first, and then in the long run, it'll never work. And that's why my dad has such longevity with his career, because he's so kind and so humble. But at the same time, like, he learned how to really, really care for his clients with, his sister and his best friend starting out, and who are two top athletes in the entire world, but also not in it for the money. He's in it because he cares deeply about them. So he's very loyal to his clients, and he cares a lot.
It seems like he also has a lot of guys who were not highly touted who became superstars,
Yes, yes, he definitely does. He has Stephen
right?
Curry.
Steph Curry,
Um,
Giannis.
yes, the big one was Stephen Curry. I mean, I feel like a lot of people did know that Giannis was going to be a superstar, when my dad's company signed him, but Steph was kind of, a little bit of an underdog. But my dad, this will very tell my dad's age. My dad represented Del Curry,
Oh,
his dad.
wow.
Yeah, so so yeah, Stefan was just kind of like, yeah, I'll sign with Jeff. My dad's name is Jeff, but I'll sign with Jeff as well. And then another one that he got, which I just love, Wesley Matthews' story. And Wesley has been with my dad for a while, right out of college, and he was undrafted, and he signed like, I want to say, like an $80 million deal. So he has a lot of guys that did either go undrafted, came from Europe, or definitely were the underdog like Steph.
Yeah, it's interesting. What do you think besides integrity, do you think it takes to be to accumulate these types of levels of clients?
Networking is key, and being, again, goes back to kindness, being nice to people. And I think one of my dad's biggest things is going into everything with an open hand. Like, my dad will never ask people for favors. He will always be the nice guy in situations, but I do think networking and knowing people is very important, especially like even for me at a personal level for my career. I could not get to where I am today. First off, obviously my hard work, but without networking. I went to USC, which is a massive networking school. And so I think network as much as you can. I know right now in this day and age, it's a lot over Zoom, but like you guys can still network with people online and virtually. So making sure you have a good, like close group of people that like can actually help you. And again, going into it with an open hand, try your best not to ask too many people for too many favors, because it will get out in the industry that you're the type of person that just asks for favors and gives nothing in return. You can't be that person.
It's interesting. I always get banged on because I have a lot of friends in the industry that are A-list names, and I never ask them to be an interview for my podcast because I just feel like
Right.
it degrades the friendship at that point.
I have never asked any of my dad's clients to be interviewed. I've never asked them for anything, truly. And I might, I'm not saying, I'm saying yeah, because like, I would love Stephen Curry on my show 100%. But at the same time, like, I never want my dad's clients to think I'm using them. That'd be the worst possible situation.
And at a certain point, you have to think, is the platform that I'm creating, does it make sense for them right now for that favor to be used in this moment? Like, is the audience that is going to come along with this interview going to be enough to ask for this favor? Like if I ask Mike Wilbon or Strahan or whatever.
I've also been always very wary of people thinking that I get everything handed to me. It's kind of been one of my insecurities in my backbone, like in the back of my mind. Like, I never want people to think I have my parents' money. I just get certain things because of who my parents are, because it's actually the opposite. I, got a scholarship to USC. I worked really freaking hard to get there. I did 4 hours of practice for basically my entire life to get to LA, because I'm from Virginia originally. After college, my parents were like, let us invest $100,000 in your fitness business. Didn't take fucking penny. Am I allowed to cuss? Sorry.
No, you can. It's good.
I didn't take a penny. And like with my app, I have a fitness app now, and it's like the Katie Austin app, and it's doing awesome. But people don't know that, yes, I could have borrowed some money from my parents to build that app, but no, I partnered with someone. So we split it 50-50, like I take the routes that I never had to ask for that money from them or ask for favors from them. Yes, I do have the last name that definitely helps with my mom in the fitness industry, but at the same time, like, I really try my best. I think that's why I work so hard, is to kind of, break out of that stigma that I just get everything handed to me.
Why is that important to you?
I don't know. I feel like this is about to be a therapy session. I don't know. I really don't know why that's important to me. I mean, like, I guess I want to make a name for myself, and outside of who my mom is, especially, we've been talking a lot about my dad in this, but my mom had her own fitness TV show for 24 years. My mom was on ESPN for 10 years with her own show 5 days a week. And so coming into an industry where my mom is like such a legend is like, I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of pressures that go along with it. It's like, oh shoot, you're not going to be as successful as her. Like, she made, she sold X DVD. She made X amount of money. It's like, you have to live up to that if you're in the same freaking industry as her. And a lot of people, I think, like when I first started, I got a lot of hate messages about it. Like, you'll never be your mom, but people are becoming a lot nicer now, knowing that I actually do have the talent to be where I am. And so I think I just want to prove myself. I've always been either my older sister was number one in the nation for lacrosse, and I was always like a little bit below her in lacrosse, like a little bit not as good as her, because she was on the cover of like so many magazines. And I've always been the sister or the daughter of, and I think it just kind of got to me my senior year of college. I'm like, F this, I'm my own person, and I'm excited for it.
Kind of feeling like you were born in the shadow of a bunch of people who were legends.
Exactly. Like, my aunt's a freaking legend. My aunt was number one. She's the youngest ever to win the US Open. And I come from a very, very successful family. So I just want to make success on my own.
You talked about you being an athlete. You were a let's just call it a stud. You were a stud. You led the nation in assists, right, in lacrosse.
How do you know that?
I do a
Thank
little
you so
research.
much.
You got a scholarship to SC for lacrosse, right? But this was at the exact time where people who were in your exact situation, right, parents with money and power and fame, were buying their kids into the same schools that you were at.
Yup.
Did you have any feeling that that was even a possibility while you were there? And when that news broke, what were you
It's really
thinking
funny
then?
because I worked so hard in lacrosse. Like lacrosse, where I'm from in Virginia, we were number one in the nation in my high school. I mean, it was like D1 in high school. It was insane. And it was so highly competitive. We had 10 girls in our class, all go D1. Basically, end all be all was lacrosse. When I got to school, people are like, what's lacrosse? Is it the club team or like what it was sticks? Because it's like Los Angeles. They're like, what is this sport? And I'm like, what the hell? We're like the popular cool girls in high school. And then after I graduated with all this stuff coming out, about the rowing team, it was just so crazy because I would say I went to USC for lacrosse, and people are like, sit back and they're like,
They're
is
like,
lacrosse
huh?
a real sport? What's this? And they're like, I've never seen anything about USC lacrosse. And and they like know who my parents are. And I'm literally like, you guys, I went, that's why my mom and I always say, like, whenever I say I went to USC and I played lacrosse, we always say, my mom is always like, and you worked hard to get in. You always have to say that. Like, I know. But no, it's really crazy. And I actually had an experience with that. My first day, my orientation, we did this athlete orientation. And I don't know if it has anything to do with this, but I remember meeting a rower and she was like the coxswain. And I remember being like talking to her about rowing or something. And she was like just this
Lost.
cute LA girl, like basically. She was just like really cute. And I was like, you're an athlete? Because I was a little different back then. I was very, very so much a tomboy. I was like, you're an athlete? Like, what do you do? And she was like telling me she was a coxswain. So she had to like weigh less and she was only, like 100 pounds or something. I was like, oh, wow, cool. I see her 2 days later, like when school started, and she was like in a cute dress. And I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm rushing. And I'm like, how are you allowed to rush? I thought you're not allowed to rush because, I wasn't allowed to rush. I was like, what the fuck? And she was like, oh, I quit rowing. And I'm like, your
2
second,
days in?
yeah, I was like, your second day? Okay. Like, what? And so I was like, now looking back, I thought nothing about it. I was like, she was like, it was too much for me. I just realized I wanted to be a sorority girl. I was like, looking back, I'm like, was she part of it? Like, holy shit, that's so crazy. But I never had any inkling in my mind whatsoever that even existed.
Yeah, and
Like,
I
you
think it probably plays on your narrative of like everybody's and like that situation happening at the same time you were there, and just being another stereotype and like thing that people believe about you that's not true.
exactly. Yes. Especially USC. I'm sorry, but our school has the worst rep for spoiled children.
Totally. Yeah, that's the University of Spoiled Children. I went to
Exactly.
Oregon.
Yes.
So I grew up in Portland, went to Oregon, and then bunch of lacrosse kids actually at Oregon, and then moved to LA to get into media. And so I was sort of around USC and all these kids at that time. So yeah, it's
You know
crazy.
it. Yep.
Yeah, and I know it. What do you speaking of women's sports, what do you think about those IG photos that leaked of the weight room and the food, the quote unquote
I'm
food?
not surprised whatsoever. Like I saw it, and obviously it makes me really, really, really angry. But it's like, you guys, this has been for years. Like, what do you guys expect? Almost, it's kind of like I'm really glad the media caught wind of it because it's like very eye opening. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, no shit, right? Women's sports have been, not equal to men's for forever. But at the same time, I go back on it, and I'm like, well, the only reason that I did go to USC was because of Title IX, and like because they had a lacrosse team is because they needed equal amount of sports as men. And so I go back on it, back and forth on it, but obviously you should have the same fucking weight room and the same food as the men's basketball team. That has nothing, and they even said it has nothing to do with money. It had something to do with space, which was just such a lie. So I do think because the media got caught wind of it, it will be different next year, but that's the only reason why, which sucks.
Was that your experience when you were playing? Is that they just consistently sort of gave you guys lesser than?
Well, there was not lesser than, honestly. I mean, there was definitely more attention from the trainers, which I didn't mind because I didn't want to go do
Yeah.
mobility exercises and foam rolling and ice and stuff 24/7. So I guess like little instances, I felt, a little bit lesser than. But honestly, we had the same everything, like the same weight room, same food, everything like that was the same, really. Not same as football team, that's for sure. But as far as other sports, it was, I guess the one thing that really bothered me was we worked out on a turf field indoors in the weight room, and the football players would have their shirts off and they would be allowed to have their shirts off. And we had to wear these like shirts, the big t-shirts that came to here. And
Yeah.
it was so hot in there. And all I wanted to do was like wear my sports bra. And we weren't allowed. And I got in trouble and had to run more sprints because I pulled my shirt up to just wipe my sweat. Sorry. I pulled my shirt
Wow.
up to wipe my sweat and I showed my bra. And I guess it was like me trying to be sexual. And that obviously wasn't the case. I was just so fucking tired from sprinting. And so you weren't even allowed to like, show a little bit of stomach at all when the guys could have their shirts off.
The men's Pac-12 is dominating in the tournament this year as well.
So, okay, here's the thing. I used to be extremely into NCAA sports and March Madness and everything. And I actually used to travel to all the games and Sweet 16 and stuff because I dated a guy for like 5 years. On
Bryce
UCLA.
Alford.
Yeah. How'd you know that?
Because it's all on Google, girl.
So funny. Yeah, I dated the point guard for UCLA. And so I used to be so into it. And then a few years after we broke up, I was just like, honestly, I can't watch it because it's just too much. It's just I need a little bit more. I don't know.
So the breakup was to a point where you can't even watch NCAA men's games anymore.
And I just like don't even care. And he like really, really fucked me up for a while. I'm not gonna lie. And so it just doesn't really interest me anymore. It sucks. It really freaking sucks.
All right. So how do we find you? You have a YouTube series launching today, Monday, when this episode comes out.
It's called Austin AF, and it's a play
Austin
on
AF.
Yeah, it's a play on AF, like as fuck, but it actually stands for and friends. I'm actually in my studio right now. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm actually interviewing today. I'm interviewing Mark Sanchez, who's also one of the hosts here at Malka. They have like Mike Tyson, they have Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson show. So I'm super excited. And it's been kind of my dream for a while to create a talk show and a video first podcast. And so this is going to be a lot around dating, a lot around lifestyle tips and kind of interviewing different athletes. Like today, I'm interviewing Mark Sanchez on how like his identity crisis, like after football. So yes, it does have a touch of sports to it sometimes. And I'll interview some athletes, but at the same time, more like the mental health aspect and lifestyle around it. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. Well, make sure you follow Katie. Give us your handles for everyone to follow.
It's just at Katie Austin on every single platform. And in YouTube, it's Katie Austin Fit. And I do weekly YouTube videos. And I have my own app, which is the Katie Austin app, and has 150 workout videos on it now.
That's all the time that we have for Katie on the This League podcast. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening and watching This League on YouTube. If you like this content, please hit the subscribe button right here. More content will come your way straight to your feed. Thanks for watching.